Yesterday, we watched the fight night between Steve Garcia and David Onama. It was an okay card. We did see a couple of finishes, but there was definitely a question. There's a few questionable things that ended up happening throughout this entire card. We're going to be going through every single fight and then be talking about the main winners and what their next fight should be. Starting off the card, we had Toledo Alencar going up against Ariane Carnelosi. I picked Carnelosi going into this fight, thinking she'd be able to stop all the takedowns. Because Alencar was definitely a lot shorter, and you can tell how muscular Carnelosi is just by her photo alone. Kind of a dumb pick because Carnelosi has no technical ability whatsoever. She's just very strong. And Alan Carr impressed me. She was able to use her technical ability to maneuver Carnelosi's strength, and she took her down multiple times. She was able to sweep the legs of Carnelosi, and Carnelosi really just had nothing for Alan Carr whatsoever. Even when the fight was standing, I feel like Alan Carr still had the advantage on the feet as well. So, huge win for Toledo Alan Carr beating a physical force like Ariane Carnelosi. So, start off the card with a loss. So, I thought it was going to be another rough night, but for the most part, we did okay. We went 8-5. Moving up the card, we got our first win. Seokyoung Ko ended up beating Phil Rowe by a unanimous decision. It was a very dominant decision. Um, Alan Carr also locked in a choke. I forgot to mention that. Alan Carr locked in the third round submission. It was just a rear naked choke. It was very easy for her to lock it in because Carnelosi was so tired in the third. But Seokyoung Ko won a very dominant decision over Phil Rowe. Ko was able to take him down whenever he wanted to. We said with that Sambo background, we said that he was going to be able to take down Rowe whenever he wanted to. And we said that his stand up was also very dangerous as well. And that's exactly what happened. Phil Rowe really didn't throw anything. And I think Seokyoung Ko had a really good game plan. He took down Phil Rowe immediately to tire him out. So Rowe didn't even get the chance to have, a good start on the feet because Ko was wearing him down on the ground. I think the first round, he was literally down on the ground the entire first round. But for the most part, this fight, I think Ko had like 12 minutes of control time on the ground. It was a very dominant win. And he wasn't just laying there either. He was moving around a lot. But a very dominant win for Seokyoung Ko. We'll be talking about who he should get next, I believe. Oh no, we actually did not give him the next fight. But I do expect him to get a step up because he's shown multiple times throughout his career that he does have very good technical ability. And he has knockout and submission ability as well. So he has the finishing ability to potentially make a run as a prospect. But moving up, Alice Ardelin beat Montserrat Ruiz. This was our fight of the night. There really wasn't that many fights to choose from, but this one was the best, I thought, mainly because Ruiz, even for how short she is, she's only 5 feet tall. She pushed forward the entire fight no matter what. She was just coming forward trying to throw these very powerful strikes that she wasn't really landing all that much. She would land every now and then. She threw 300 strikes in this fight, and it was only 3 rounds. So that's crazy. I don't know how she was able to do it. But Alice Ardelin was able to keep the range for the most part. She was laying this nice jab whenever Ruiz would try to move in. So that was peppering her a lot throughout the fight. Ardelin landed a few hooks as well. But yeah, there was a bunch of hard shots that was landed throughout this entire fight, but Alice Ardelin was able to get the unanimous decision very clearly just because of her being able to keep the range for about 75% of this fight. So Alice Ardelin gets the win here, and we'll be talking about who she should fight next. Next up, we picked Norma Dumont to beat Caitlin Vieira, and she was able to get the split decision. Some people question whether she actually won or not, because Caitlin Vieira was able to take down Dumont whenever she wanted to, and that worries me for Dumont because I thought Dumont was going to actually be able to stop the takedowns, but she looked awful when it came to takedown defense. So if she's getting Kayla Harrison next, she's absolutely fucked because Vieira was taking her down whenever she wanted to. That's why it was such a close fight. But on the stand-up, even though Dumont really didn't throw a whole lot, she was definitely doing more damage on the feet, and she definitely won the stand-up game. And Vieira was kind of just laying on her after the takedown. So they were very close rounds, but in terms of damage, you had to give it to Dumont because she landed more. So I really don't think it was a robbery. I honestly thought that they might give it to Dumont because I knew Vieira didn't do a whole lot on the ground. So Vieira just has to show that she can do more with her takedowns because she could have easily won this fight if she was just shooting, these small punches and small elbows on the ground, but she wasn't. She was just laying there. And so Dumont was winning just because of the stand-up. But Norma Dumont gets a split decision win over Caitlin Vieira, and she might be looking for a number 1 contenders fight. Next up, Dante Johnson beat Cedricus Dumas. Dante Johnson was our lock of the week, and for very good reason. And he was able to cash that very easily. He got a second round submission over Dumas. Um, he showed he had wrestling ability here. I said in the lock of the week post on Instagram, I said that Dante Johnson is such an underrated wrestler, and people don't realize that because he's finished everyone in the first round by knockout. Now, credit to Cedric Dumas for surviving the first round. But Johnson showed how good his wrestling is in this fight against Dumas. Dumas is a hard person to take down with how tall he is. But Johnson, with his, very big height disadvantage, he was able to take down Dumas multiple times. I think he took him down 4 times in a 2-round fight. And it was just a dominant win for Johnson. He landed a bunch of powerful shots as well, which we're obviously used to seeing from Dante. But he is definitely going to be a nice prospect to add to this middleweight division. Middleweight is already stacked enough, but I really do feel like Dante Johnson will be able to get into the rankings. He has such big power for the middleweight division, and for that to even translate up to the heavyweight division, because he's moved up to heavyweight. Don't forget, he fought at heavyweight in the Contender series, and he knocked the dude out first round. So he has power even at heavyweight. So when these middleweight guys get hit by his power, they are going to freaking feel it. And Dante Johnson has shown that. But he gets a second round submission over Cedric Dumas. Dumas was going to get cut after this. He basically didn't even try to defend the choke, and he just had his hand in the air waiting to tap. So Dante Johnson gets the dominant submission win and wins his UFC debut. Moving up, Timmy Kawamba beat Chang Ho Lee. I told you guys if I went 0-2 with my Asian picks on this card, I would never pick an Asian ever again. I went 1-1, so I guess it just depends on which Asian fighter I pick up from now on. But Timmy Kawamba, really interesting fight. Chang Ho Lee dominated the first round just with he was on the back of Timmy Kawamba. It was a standing body triangle that had Chang Ho Lee just crawling on the back of Timmy Kawamba. Normally you would think that that's going to negatively affect Kawamba because Kawamba has to hold up all of Chang Ho Lee's weight. But Kawamba was doing a very smart thing of keeping Lee's body up against the cage, so he wasn't carrying all of it. And it actually was more negative for Chang Ho Lee because that body triangle, you're squeezing your leg as tight as you can. So Lee's legs were completely dead for the rest of the fight. So even though he had that body lock and he was trying to find that choke in the first round for all 5 minutes, he didn't get it. So his legs were completely tied for rounds 2 and 3. Kawamba was able to take advantage on the feet. He took down Chang Ho Lee so many times because Lee didn't have the legs to counter it. And it was a very dominant rounds 2 and 3 for Kawamba. It was a pick-me fight. We got Lee as the underdog. But unfortunately, Kawamba did win this by unanimous decision, 29-28. It's unfortunate for Chang Ho Lee because if he was able to find the submission, then he'd obviously get the first round finish. But it's just high risk, high reward. The high risk is that you're going to have no legs for the rest of the fight, but the high reward is you have a great position for the rest of the round to try and find the rear naked choke. And he almost got it, but Kawamba did a very good job of fighting it off for 5 minutes. So big win for Timmy Kawamba against Korean Khabib. Next up, to wrap off the prelims, Billy Elikana submitted Kevin Christian in the first round. Very easy pick here. We said how awful Kevin Christian was and that he did not deserve to be in the UFC, and we were right. Billy Elikana dropped him with one single punch. Elikana was doing his same strategy against Ibo Aslan. Excuse me, where he just kind of was very patient. And I was worried for a second because Kevin Christian was landing these very nice leg kicks to Elikana on the inside that I thought Elikana was just not going to, come forward at all. But then finally, after like 3 minutes of the fight, Elikana throws this overhand that clips Christian, drops him, and then Elikana gets right on top of him and gets the submission locked in. Christian tries fighting it, but wasn't able to, and then he taps. Actually, no, he didn't. He tapped, but the ref didn't see it, so Christian went out cold because the ref didn't see his hand. So there was just one of the many errors of tonight's card. But Billy Elikana gets the first round finish, and we'll talk about who he should fight next after being on I believe he's on a 2-fight win streak now. Because yes, he lost that short notice fight to Guskov, where he actually looked pretty impressive in his debut. Then he beat Abba Aslan, and then just beat Kevin Christian. So he's actually got not a bad UFC career so far. But moving on to the main card, we had Alan Nascimento getting the second round submission over Cody Durden. Very, very good patience from Nascimento in this fight. All he had to do, which I kind of figured going into this fight since Cody Durden took it on short notice, was if Nascimento survives the very fast pressure that Durden brings in the first round, if he survives the first round, Nascimento it will win the fight. And he was able to. Durden was coming forward the entire first round, and it did look a little bit worrying at first because he was landing a few shots on Nascimento. But Nascimento was also doing very good at countering. He would get hit with two punches, but then land a very hard counter punch, whether it was a left or whether it was a one or a two. Um, so Nascimento was doing very good countering in the round one, and then Durden really slowed down in the second round. Nascimento was started pushing the pace, and Nascimento became the aggressor, was able to drop Durden with a nice, clean, straight jab, drop Durden. Nascimento jumped on top of him. I believe it was just a rear naked choke. It might have been a Darce choke though. I kind of forget which one it was, but not regardless. Nascimento was able to lock in the submission in the second round after dropping Durden. He gets the second round submission, and that's a huge win for Nascimento. Sucks we couldn't see him go up against Esteban because that would have been a great grappling matchup. Um, and it's unfortunate for Cody Durden because I think he's 1-5 in his last 6 fights now. So it sucks because who knows if they're gonna keep him now. Um, he's 1-6. Or no, yeah, that's crazy. Unfortunate for Cody, man. I was a big Cody fan at one point, but he's just not the same anymore now that he's fighting all these good guys. Moving up, Charles Radke gets the third round submission over Daniel Frunza. Very dominant win here. We knew Daniel Frunza was not good after he lost to Reese McKee. And Radke was able to dominate. He had very powerful hands on the feet, so he was able to wobble Frunza multiple times. He took him down a bunch of times. I think he took him down 6 times in this entire fight. It went almost the entire fight, but Radke was able to lock in the rear naked choke. Third round, with 30 seconds left, locked in the choke to not even have to go to the judges' scorecard. Very easy pick here. Charles Radke gets the win, and we'll be talking about his fight coming up shortly. Now, this is the one that a lot of people were speculating might have been a rigged fight. Yadir Del Val gets the first round submission over Isaac Dolgarian. Dolgarian opening odds were -400. Then it was realistic. It dropped down to -300, which, they always tend to drop a little bit after the opening odds. And then out of nowhere, like an hour before the fight, it goes to a pick me. So it's like a 50-50 pick for betting odds. So a lot of people caught on to that. I didn't notice that until after the fight already happened. But like I already told you guys, I'm not going to change my picks. I'm not letting myself change my picks if it's not after the episode. I can only change them before the episode. If it's after, I just have to stick with the pick no matter what, unfortunately. We had to do that with Lucas Almeida when he broke his hand against Michael Aswell, unfortunately. But yeah, that was very interesting. Dolgarian just dropped to a 50-50 when he was -300. So everyone's like, what's going on? Did he get injured while hitting pads backstage? Some people say it's, a rigged fight. Some people are saying that Dolgarian rigged the fight and that he was telling people to bet on him. So there's currently an investigation going on whether he rigged this fight or not because his performance was also very questionable. So he shot this awful takedown. Dolgarian shot this awful takedown. Del Val shot his takedown on Dolgarian. That Dolgarian just got taken down right away. He didn't try fighting it whatsoever. Del Val got the back instantly. And then Dolgarian, who has grappled with the best and is known as a wrestling phenom, and people were very excited that this dude was going to be able to dominate everyone with his wrestling. He's throwing punches behind his head, not seeing where they're going, while Del Val's looking for the rear naked choke. Why are you not hand fighting? And that's just such a simple move that everyone knows that you hand fight when they're looking for the rear naked choke. You can't throw punches while they're looking for your neck, or they're going to get it. So Dolgarian didn't even try fighting the choke until Del Val already locked it in. Then it finally looked like he was actually trying. But by then it was too late. Del Val already had the choke locked in. Dolgarian survived for like another 30 to 45 seconds in the choke, which was kind of impressive. But regardless, very questionable IQ from Dolgarian. That just makes no sense. I hope he explains what happened because I don't know what the hell that was. I don't get how you get taken down that easily, knowing that you're a phenomenal grappler. I don't know how you don't hand fight when someone's going for your neck. And it's just so weird that the odds dropped that much an hour before the fight out of nowhere. I saw a bunch of betting apps also refunded anyone who picked Bulgarian, so that's also a little bit like it's just such a weird outcome that it just made no sense to me. So that was one of my losses, unfortunately. I picked Bulgarian, but Del Val, nonetheless, that's a big win for Del Val in his debut. Now, we don't really know how much that means because if Bulgarian wasn't trying, then that means Del Val's win means nothing. But it's good momentum for him, and it's definitely a good boost for his morale going into his next fight. Moving up, Jeremiah Wells was able to get the unanimous decision win over Themba Gorimbo. This fight annoyed me so much because my main card was doing so well, and then I was losing two straight after I saw that Jeremiah Wells was going to win the rest of this fight. Gorimbo looked so strong, and he was able to take down Wells the entire first round. And I was like, oh, this is going to be an easy win for me because Gorimbo, I was worried that Wells was going to be able to, stop Gorimbo's takedowns and it was going to be hard for Gorimbo to take him down. But no, Gorimbo was just, doing simple moves to get Wells down to the ground. I think Gorimbo took him down 2 or 3 times in the first round, and he was able to, move and advance in positions whenever he wanted to. It was very easy for him to get into good positions for him. And then the second and third round, he just had no stamina. Wells was taking him down with the worst wrestling ever. It was so bad. Stand-up was pretty even throughout this entire fight, even though Gorimbo was very tired. Wells obviously had more power, so that's why he probably won the stand-up. But on the ground, Gorimbo just, completely lost everything after the first round. So he used way too much of his gas tank. It didn't even look like that. He just doesn't have a gas tank. And he gassed out after the first round. So Wells was able to win rounds 2 and 3 very clearly. 29-28 decision for Jeremiah Wells. It's unfortunate because Gorimbo looked so good in that first round, as did Chang Ho Lee. And then both of them just gassed out for rounds 2 and 3. So it's unfortunate for both of them because they both are actually really good grapplers. But you can't, you got to know that you're going to need some endurance. If you're going to grapple, you need endurance. That is like a must have. And Gorimbo and Chang Li, unfortunately, just don't have that. I'm going to critique Gorimbo more because he wasn't holding a body lock triangle for 5 minutes of the first round. So Gorimbo was actually laying there for a few minutes, not holding his legs. So it's not like his legs gave out. He was just gassed. So Jeremiah Wells gets the win, and he called out Michael Chiesa, which, spoiler alert, we did give Jeremiah Wells. So that's who I would give Jeremiah Wells. But we'll actually break down the matchup soon. If we thought that the DeBerry and Del Val result was interesting, oh boy, let me tell you. Waldo Cortez Acosta knocks out Ante Delia in the first round. You could not make this up. 1 week after Tom Aspinall gets eye poked, his teammate goes out there, and right before the fight, he says, oh, eye pokes should be a very harsh punishment. In all my 33 professional fights, I've never eye poked someone. First round, Ante Delia looking very good in the fight. He hits Waldo Cortez Acosta against the cage, and Cortez Acosta just instantly covers up his face. And we're like, what the heck happened? How did he get stung? And then Delia is spamming hooks to the head while Cortez Acosta is just standing there, and then the ref separates them. So Delia thinks he won the fight. I knew not to think that just yet because the ref never waved his hands off. So I was like, wait a minute. He didn't wave his hands off. Does that mean the fight's still continuing? But Delia was over with his corner celebrating. He was trying to talk to Michael Bisping and the commentators, and Bisping's like, no, he never waved the fight off. It was an eye poke. So they go check the cameras. It was an eye poke. So then the ref gives him 5 minutes. But by then, Delia has already lost all of his stamina. He's not really focused on the fight anymore. All the adrenaline is gone. And while Cortez Acosta is getting angry that he got eye poked, he's like screaming in his corner. He still has all of his adrenaline because he knows that he's still in this fight. So it's just a huge adrenaline advantage for Acosta. And sure enough, literally the first punch that Cortez Acosta throws after the time runs out, Cortez Acosta knocks down Delia with the first punch he throws and knocks out Ante Delia. So not only is it bad for Delia that he said he's never eye poked anyone in 33 fights and it should be harsh, as he proceeds to eye poke someone, it was like a pinky that swiped across his eye. Cortez Acosta got eye poked, and instead of calling the fight off, he goes out there and knocks out Delia with the first punch, which makes Tom look even worse. So what an even worse thing for Tom to go on back-to-back weeks now. So Tom Aspinall is really going to play the bad guy in this next fight against Cyril Gane. It's so obvious, but honestly, I can't wait for it because everyone bailed on supporting him out of nowhere, and it was so annoying. So I really hope I'm still cheering for Aspinall in the rematch easily. Um, but yeah, Cortez Acosta, great bounce back win for him when everyone thought it was over. He went out there, said he got eye poked, got a 5-minute break, and went out there and knocked out D'Elia with the first punch thrown. So he gets the first round finish, and that was very surprising. But at the same time, I was questionable on D'Elia going into this fight. That's why it was such a close pick for me, because I knew D'Elia was faster, but I knew Acosta had very good counter punches. But I also didn't know how good D'Elia was because he knocked out Marcin Tybura, which Tybura is on his way out. But big win for Waldo Cortez Acosta. And then finally, the main event, thankfully rounding off my card to be pretty good. If I lost this one, I was gonna be so angry because that would have been my fourth loss in a row. So it was not looking good going into this main event. But Steve Garcia looked so perfect. He gets the first round finish over David Onama, and we gave him performance of the night for good reason. Onama tried playing this patient game with Garcia, thinking it was going to work. You cannot be patient and pick your shots against Garcia. You're going to have to make it a war against Garcia if you want to win. Garcia is known for a weak chin, so you need to throw the exact same amount of volume as Garcia. But you need to be the one that's coming forward, and you need to be the one that's throwing first. Unfortunately for Onama, he likes staying on the outside, throwing these technical strikes. He can get into a war sometimes, but it's normally after he gets hurt badly. So Garcia didn't even let him get a chance to recover. As soon as Garcia hurt Onama, he just rushed on him right away. He threw a body kick, he threw a head kick, he was throwing a bunch of punches to get him, he was trying to get him down right away, but Onama was just kind of running from him. And then finally, Garcia got him against the cage, started spamming hits to the head, threw him down, and then finished him on the ground to get the finish in just under 4 minutes in the first round. Garcia's looking like he's going to be a problem, and I'm actually very interested on who they're going to give him next. He called out Max Holloway, which was stupid of him. He would never get the Max Holloway fight. That's not even the right division for him. But, I mean, you could have Max come back down to featherweight if you wanted him to. Like, it's not like that'd be a problem for him. But either way, Steve Garcia should not be getting Max Holloway. I don't think he will. But one person I do think he should get, which will switch over to the next fights for the main winners, I'd give Steve Garcia Arnold Allen. I think that's a good step up for him. Arnold Allen's been losing to the top contenders in the division. Um, so this would be a good fight where he actually gets a step down for once. But even though it's a step down, it's going to be a very hard fight for him to win. I know Arnold Allen is very good in brawling fights, so it's going to give Garcia that test. And we're going to be able to test Garcia's chin in this fight because I don't think Garcia knocks him out first round. But honestly, he could. He's very lengthy, and his reach and height is very good for this featherweight division. So he could surprise me in that fight, but I think Arnold Allen would definitely be his toughest test so far. And if he wins that fight, then he can get a #1 contenders fight because he'd be on an 8-fight win streak if he wins that. But I give Steve Garcia Arnold Allen. I know some people were saying Gene Silva, but I just don't see Gene Silva accepting that fight. I know Steve Garcia would, but I feel like Gene, since he took the fight all the way up to #2 ranking, I think he should get, somewhere around Arnold Allen's range of competition, so around the 5 ranking. But I give Steve Garcia Arnold Allen. He deserves that step up. So give me #12 versus #5 or #6. I forget what ranking Arnold Allen is. Moving on, Waldo Cortez Acosta getting his first round finish over Ante D'Elia. He deserves a step up. He lost to Sergey Pavlovich, who was #2 at the time. Now he defeat the #9 ranked guy. I want to give him a #1 contenders fight. Give him Curtis Blades. Blades is coming off a win to a big prospect. Blades has fought for the title multiple times. He's a very good wrestler, so we're going to have to test if Cortez Acosta can stop takedowns from Curtis Blades. But I think that's a good matchup to have. If Blades wins, he can maybe look for a #1 contenders fight or the belt, depending on what the division looks like. If it's Tom, obviously, then you don't give it to Curtis Blades. You make him have a #1 contenders fight. But if it's Cortez Acosta, then you can probably just give Cortez Acosta the title fight. Because if Acosta beats Blades, he can stop the takedowns. Or he can do enough damage to where he wins the rounds despite the takedowns. But I think that's a good matchup to have. Curtis Blades also needs to come back and fight soon. So maybe you do that fight on the White House card. Personally, I don't think they should, but I mean, Curtis Blade's American, so you could always throw that in there on the prelims. But personally, I wouldn't want that. But you never know. Next up, like I said, Jeremiah Wells getting his win over Themba Garimbo. I'd give him Michael Chiesa. He's just outside the rankings. He's still on a win streak though, so Michael Chiesa has some nice confidence going into this fight. He also said he wants to fight older guys around his age, so this is perfect because Jeremiah Wells is 39, Chiesa's 38. Grappling, it's going to be the advantage for Chiesa. Chiesa has very dangerous submissions, but I do see a way where Wells just knocks him out in the first round because Chiesa does not have any striking anymore. Um, so I'd probably give it to Wells, honestly. I think Wells is also going to be stronger than Chiesa going into the fight, and Chiesa should probably just stick to being a analyst at this point because I feel like he's much better than that at fighting at this point, which sucks to say because he's a legend. But give me Jeremiah Wells versus Michael Chiesa. I thought that was a nice call for Wells to have because if he beats Chiesa, then he can get a top 15 ranked fighter. So give me Jeremiah Wells versus Michael Chiesa. Next up, Yadier Devel beats Isaac Bulgarian. I gave him a step up here. I didn't want it to be such a huge step up, but I wanted to give him someone where it's like, all right, if you beat this guy convincingly, you can get a top 15 matchup. But if you barely beat him, then you can fight another guy that's, trying to fight for the top 15 soon. So give me Yadier Deval versus Andre Fili. Andre Fili just beat Christian Rodriguez, who's known as the prospect killer. And he's always been 50-50 with his fights. So I think that's a perfect matchup for Del He's also former top 15, I believe. Um, That's going to test Del Val's stand-up game. Feely's also very decent on the ground. Well, he's not decent. He's good on the ground, but that's not his strong suit. His strong suit's his stand-up. So I think that'll test Del Val's stand-up. Grappling, though, Del Val would have the advantage. So I'd probably lean towards Del Val. But Feely will create challenges and problems for Del Val. So we'll really see if Yadier Del Val is here to stay in the UFC. But I think that's a good matchup to have for Del Val. Moving down, Charles Radke. I'd give him Santiago Ponzinibbio. Radke has only lost to Mike Mallet and Carlos Prates, but he's beaten the other three opponents he's fought. So he's 3-2 in the UFC, with his two losses being to ranked fighters. So I want to give him a UFC legend that is kind of on his way out, and it would be a good name to add to Charles's resume. I'd give him Ponzinibbio solely because Ponzinibbio, I believe he's on a 3 or 4 fight losing streak right now. And he's still signed to the UFC. I think he probably has only 1 fight left on his contract. So give Ponzinibbio his easiest fight recently to date, but at the same time, Charles Radke will have the advantage being the younger fighter, and it's a very good resume name to have. If you can add Santiago Ponzinibbio to your resume, that's going to get him pushed even higher. So give me Charles Radke versus Santiago Ponzinibbio. Probably pick Radke there. Radke looked very impressive against Daniel Franzo all around. Moving down finally on the main card, Alan Nascimento getting his win over Cody Durden. It's a good win, don't get me wrong. Durden is a very tough fighter, but at the same time, Durden's 1-6 in his last 7. So I'm going to go with Alan Nascimento getting that fight against Rafael Estevam. We don't really know why Estevam ended up scratching this fight because Estevam was originally supposed to fight Nascimento on this card, but then he pulled out. So don't really know what the excuse was for him pulling out, but hopefully they can get Nascimento versus Rafael Estevam in the future. I think that's a good matchup to have. Advantage on the ground, you got to give to Estevam. Estevam looks so dominant on the ground, but finishing ability definitely goes to Nascimento and stand-up. So who knows? I'd probably lean towards Estevam just because he's shown no signs of, getting beat on the ground, and he's very good at switching and getting those dominant positions on the ground. He doesn't really have that finishing ability, but he can wear you down so quickly on the ground, and it's so overwhelming for people that go up against him. So I'd probably pick Esteban in that fight, but that's who I'd want to see Nascimento go against because I was looking so forward to that fight on this card. I'm freaking choking. Billy Alicana getting his first round finish over Kevin Christian. I want to give Billy Alicana Rodolfo Bellato. He just had a very close, well, don't get me wrong, he lost the fight convincingly, but it still was a close fight because Bellato landed some nice strikes on him against Navo Sterling. But Bellato has shown he's a very balanced fighter, and he's honestly not that bad. Despite his Paul Craig, acting performance where he was acting like he was knocked out. I think this would be a good step up for Billy Alicana, and it's also a step down for Bellato. Bellato doesn't have to face a prospect anymore, and Alicana gets a fight a dude that's, very well rounded. And if he beats him, he might be able to fight for a top 15 ranked matchup next. So give me Billy Alicana versus Rodolfo Bellato. I might give it to Rodolfo Bellato, honestly. He's not a bad fighter. I'm leaning towards Bellato, as long as he's not. He does give up in fights, though, which is a little bit concerning. No, I'd go with Alicana. Yeah, that Paul Craig thing was crazy. Even though he's a good fighter, I think Alicana would be able to drop him and put Bellato in a very dangerous situation. Next up, Dante Johnson getting his finish over Cedricus Dumas very dominantly. I would give him Jacob Malkoun. I think it's a very good test for him on the ground. Malkoun's known for having power in his hands and a good wrestling background, which is like Johnson, but I think Johnson's just way better athletically. I think he has stronger hands. I think he has better wrestling. He's younger. So I think it's just all around better for Johnson. Malkoun will probably be bigger, but Johnson will still be stronger. I think Johnson would be able to knock him out in the first round. I think it'd be a very good performance for Johnson to have, especially with Malkoun being on a 2-fight win streak. Um, and then if he wins that fight, it's up to them. I would say if he gets a first round finish, just give him a top 15 contender, like 13, 14, or 15 rank. But give me Dante Johnson versus Jacob Malkoun. I think that's a fun matchup where both of them have the exact same skill set, except one of them is younger and just stronger overall. And we can see another highlight performance from Dante Johnson. Moving down, Norma Dumont getting her questionable decision over Caitlin Vieira. I gave her Juliana Pena. She called her out. She said, "Is Juliana Pena, if she ever wants to come back, I'll gladly fight her." I think they give Juliana Pena that fight in a return. I'd probably give it to Juliana Pena. She's way more balanced than Dumont. She'll be able to take down Dumont for 5 rounds. If it's a 5-round fight, I would give it to Pena. But if it's a 3-round fight, it would be a lot closer. But I might still go with Pena. It's unfortunate because if Dumont had good takedown defense, she'd be exactly like crap. What's that really good Man in Fiat? If she had very good takedown defense, she'd be exactly like Man in Fiat, where her stand up is so good, but yet she doesn't really like to go to the ground. But unfortunately, her takedown defense sucks. So I think Juliana Pena would pose a lot of problems for Norma Dumont, and people forget that Pena is still really good despite her most recent loss. And then finally, the final fight we'll talk about is Alice Ardelin. She got that very fun fight win decision over Montserrat Ruiz. I give her to Lita Alencar, who fought the first fight on this card and won. I think that's a good matchup because Alencar is very technically sound. She's very good grappling wise. She has technical ability that can confuse you. But Ardelin has shown that she's a very good brawler. We didn't really see her ground game all that much. So Alencar will test her ground game. I think Ardelin will do good on the ground as well. I think she'd probably win this fight against Alencar. But both of them have won back-to-back fights, so whoever wins this fight, you can kind of push to the rankings. I'd probably go with Alice Ardelin, though, because she showed that she's very tough. And she's very good at keeping the distance. So I'd take Alice Ardelin in that fight. But with that being said, that's going to cap off our review for Garcia versus Onama. We are getting prepared for Gabriel Bonfim versus Randy Brown fight night this weekend. It's kind of a stinker. Again, we got back-to-back stinkers, but then the rest of the year is going to be very entertaining between fight cards and pay-per-views. Very excited for these next ones after this weekend, of course. But with that being said, we're going to get our studying ready for you guys. We'll get our predictions out on Thursday, and we'll see you guys for the next episode.